There is a concerning amount of weird, dark, and disgusting traditions and practices that are still followed to this day, and I want to talk about them. For example, one of them is, not even kidding, abducting your crush. Yeah, alakachu, which literally translates to take and run, is a tradition followed in Kyrgyzstan which involves snatching the love of your life and taking her on a little non-consensual joyride back to your family. But what even is the point of doing all this, right? And what happens afterwards? Well, first of all, there are two variations of this tradition, both of them very illegal and very much still in practice today. The first version is when the couple already knows each other and the man decides to finally lock it down with her. Only instead of proposing like a normal human being, he plans a full-blown GTA heist with his friends and abducts the girl while she's out minding her own business. The second variation is when the girl doesn't even know the guy. They just straight up group up on her and hope she doesn't pepper spray them in the face or worse. In this clip from 2011, the girl recognizes her significant other, but that doesn't stop her from kicking and screaming because she knows what this quote-unquote tradition leads to. After the girl reaches the abductor's home, she's immediately pressured into wearing a white scarf, which if she chooses to wear, it's taken as consent for marriage. Apparently, in 95% of the cases, the girl ends up agreeing to it even if it's a stranger, because if she doesn't, she's labeled as a massive disgrace, even by her own family. Like in some cases, her own family will literally refuse to take her back because they're worried about societal shame. But still, why was the girl we saw earlier resisting so hard when she was already in love with the guy? Well, it's because she wanted to finish her education before getting married, and she knew once she reached the man's house, saying no or delaying the marriage would lead to massive consequences for her. So it's basically a fucked up marriage proposal, only instead of a ring you put a hood over her head and she isn't really allowed to say no. But hey, at least you get plenty of nuance there that can relate with you. Did you know there is a tribe called the Satare Mawe that lives in the Amazon jungle, and they, hands down, have the most brutal, coming-of-age ritual on this planet? See, in order for a young man to prove he's ready to be a warrior that can protect the tribe, he has to stick his hands in a glove filled with bullet ants. Now, if you're not familiar with bullet ants, the bite from these fuckers is ranked 4 in the Schmidt-Sting Pain Index, which also happens to be as high as the index goes. Like, the pain is said to be worse than childbirth at its peak. Once he has the gloves on, an entire colony of bullet ants start chewing on this boy's hands while he has to keep dancing. The tribe believes dancing helps the pain leave the body, but spoiler alert, it doesn't. After 5 minutes, the gloves come off, but this is the part when the real pain sets in. The venom from the bullet ant quite literally overloads your pain nerves to the maximum, and this pain stays constant, unrelenting for 24 brutal hours. This YouTuber wanted to take a swing at the gloves of death, but just 2 seconds in, he begins to feel the full wrath of the bullet ants. The pain is so bad that your brain keeps checking out in order to stop feeling the pain, so you begin to hallucinate after a few hours.
I want the gloves off. I really want the gloves off. When I put my hands in the ice water, it's the best feeling on earth. How do we get on the boat?
Boys as young as 12 are made to do this at least 20 times in a single year. They're not allowed to scream because only a bitch would cry from a bullet ant bite, or so the women of the tribe say, who also happen to have never done this themselves. Okay, now I want to talk about something more wholesome. There is a hill called the Cooper's Hill in England, and every year it is used to hold an event called Cooper's Hill Cheese Rolling. Basically, a large wheel of cheese weighing about 7 to 9 pounds is sent rolling down the Cooper's Hill, which by the way is steep enough that it's impossible to walk without tumbling down. A bunch of mad lads then fling themselves towards the rolling cheese, trying to be the first one to the bottom.
Pandas don't walk, we roll!
The winner gets all the cheese. The literal wheel of cheese. You also get participation rewards like ankle fractures, torn ACLs, and even dislocated shoulders like this woman right here. It's officially held every year, but some years it gets cancelled due to safety concerns. Those years, it's done unofficially. So even though this event is not officially supported by the local authorities, people do it anyway, and emergency services have to be on standby regardless, because injuries are so common during the event, it's basically part of the tradition. I also managed to find a game based on this thing on Steam, which was kinda funny. But speaking of broken bones, Famadihana, literally meaning the turning of the bones, is a ceremony held by the Malagasy people every 5 to 7 years, which involves dancing with the remains of your ancestors. The ceremony begins with opening up the tombs of your ancestors, whose remains are then wrapped in a silk cloth called lamba mena. Now this cloth alone can cost hundreds of dollars, not to mention the entire neighborhood is fed copious amounts of food and alcohol by the family doing the ritual, so they quite literally blow away their life savings every 7 years for this ceremony. Anyways, the ancestors are then taken on an adventure, while the people are drinking, dancing, singing, and screaming violent slurs at each other. I added the last part in, but even though this looks very familiar, it's surprisingly not related to the coffin dance meme. These men are just professional pallbearers who'll choreograph the carry if you pay a little extra. Now guys, it's said everyone grieves differently. Some do it like Erica Kirk by selling merch and doing concerts with pyrotechnics and shit, just days after your husband gets unalived on TV. But the Dani tribe of Indonesia takes grieving to an even more extreme level. The Dani people believe that losing a loved one creates spiritual imbalance, and a sacrifice is required to appease ancestral spirits. So if a woman loses her husband or a family member, she has to lose a finger to express her grief. And guess what? She is pressured by the members of the tribe into doing it, because women are expected to carry visible grief. Failing to do it may anger spirits and bring more misfortune in her life, so no one has dared to lift a finger against this tradition. No one except the Indonesian government, of course. They have officially banned this practice, but people do it regardless. But what happens if a Dani man loses a loved one? Well, men express grief differently, of course, duh. So they only gotta chant prayers to the gods for a couple of days and drink a lot of booze to show respect to the spirits. Kidding, they did it through ritual warfare and other ceremonies. And by warfare, I mean real dangerous combat. But what a roller coaster of emotions so far, right? It's pretty apparent that us humans don't care why a particular tradition started. We're just like, oh, as long as my parents did it, it must be for the right reasons. But not all are that extreme. Some are less harmful, like this one right here. I did say less harmful. But yeah, this weird practice is common among the Danish people, particularly in the Jutland region in Denmark. If you happen to be an unmarried person and are about to turn 25, there is a 90% chance that your friends are about to gang up on you and tie you to a pole on the street in the coming days, at least if you happen to live in the Jutland region. Then they marinade you with cinnamon. And I'm not talking gentle sprinkles or whatever. No, you're gonna get absolutely aggressively covered with cinnamon, even in places where you definitely don't want any kind of spice to be. Now this traces back to when spice merchants in Denmark used to travel a lot and ended up never getting married even by the age of 30. So now this has turned into the Danish way of single-shaming people. But some people take it to the extremes. Like, what the fuck is this? But that's not everything. Guess what happens when you turn 30 and your ass is still single? Same thing, but with pepper, baby. Bunch of mad lads up in Denmark. But now I want to talk about the Toraj people that are a bit higher on the mad lad scale. We've seen dancing for the unalived and we've seen dancing with the unalived, but now let me introduce you to the tribe that lives with the unalived. I know, saying unalived makes it 100 times less dramatic, but go, take it up with YouTube, alright? As I was saying, the Toraja people believe a person isn't truly gone until the funeral happens. The problem is, funerals among the Toraj are massive and expensive, much like those of the Malagasy people. So while they save up for the big day, they do what any loving family should do, mummify their departed loved one with a chemical called formaldehyde. So instead of wet, smelly, and gooey, grandma remains dry and surprisingly odorless. The Toraja live very high up in the mountains, so the air is cold and dry, which slows down the decomposition even further. Next part is gaslighting, believing that their loved one is not gone, just sick, so they call him to makula, which means someone who is sick. They then keep the to makula around in their homes, greet them normally, and take them on family trips and whatnot, until they can afford the funeral, which is of course a big ceremony involving the entire village. But here comes the kicker. They don't bury the to makula, they put them in a tomb, and guess where the tomb goes? Hanging on the side of a mountain cliff. Now they're not dangling by a rope like a cartoon trap, they carve space out for the tomb, and it's supported structurally by wooden beams. Crazy, right? Now guess which country the Torajai tribe lives in? Indonesia. Again. What a shocker, right? But with that being said, guys, I unfortunately did leave the most disgusting one for last in order to leave a bad taste in your mouth. Just joking. I wouldn't do that to you.
Psych!
Maggot-infested cheese, baby! You thought we were done with cheese for the video? Well, you're wrong. Casu marzu is the cheese that's alive, and it's made and sold in Sardinia, Italy. I don't want to get into the whole process of making this, but it involves flies laying eggs inside the cheese, and the eggs then hatching into maggots that digest the fats and turn the cheese into something really sour and strong. And guess what? The little shits can jump 6 inches in the air, so you gotta dodge them while you eat the cheese. Here's a clip of Gordon Ramsay having a bite. I don't think he liked it. Now I know what you're all wondering. Is this even safe to consume? Well, the answer is, fuck no. It's quite illegal to sell it, in fact, but as I say this for the 100th time in this video, people do it anyway, under the table. I'm sure there's some secret code word you can say to the waiter at any Sardinian cafe, and suddenly you have an alive and breathing chunk of cheese on your plate. But that's about it, guys. Even though it sounded like I was dumping hard on these traditions, which I kinda was, I'm actually someone that likes to travel a lot and is fascinated by the sheer diversity of human beings. Granted, some of these traditions definitely need to be discontinued. Let me know in the comments which one of these practices you liked and disliked the most. Bye-bye for now.